Hello, my name is Casey Staten, and this is my Module 3 assignment, Research PowerPoint. So my first slide is on accessibility in Romania. A study conducted by Robantu in 2018 found that Romania had a really low level of accessibility. In 2015, there were only 323 rooms available for handicapped people, and even though that number grew in 2016, it only really grew to 404, which is really not a lot. He claims that the main thing stopping many of Romania's restaurants, entertainment venues, and transportation from really becoming accessibility friendly is a lack of funds. Next slide is about Marriott and its commitment to hiring disabled workers. Marriott has been hiring disabled workers for a long time. In fact, this year marks Marriott's second consecutive top score on the Disability Equality Index, which is a statistic put out by a company dedicated to promoting equality and improving conditions for the disabled. It rates companies on company culture, community engagement, employment practices, among other things. This slide is about websites and accessible tourism. Studies by Villa et al. In 2019 show a link between a country's welfare policies, websites, and accessible travel. Countries that put more money into resources for the disabled tend to have increased accessible tourism amounts. However, in the case of Norway, even though Norway spends 2.3% of its GDP on accessibility, its website was cited as a hindrance for travel because it was too poorly managed. Stress and accessible tourism. Accessible travel is a major stress reliever for people with disabilities, and tourism helps promote the feelings of autonomy and self-esteem. Travel is also linked to an increase of skills within people with motor disabilities, according to Mora et al. In 2018. Japanese tourism in Indonesia. So, a study conducted by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, tried to find how to appeal to Japanese tourists. They found the best ways were to market toward senior citizens, as Japan has an increased elderly population, market towards Joshitabi, who are career women who like to shop and eat good food, and employing the use of the Japanese language in tourist areas, because a lot of Japanese people don't like to speak English. They want to speak Japanese whenever possible. Tourism in India. Tourism in India is expected to grow over the next decade. However, Ho et al. In 2019 saw some challenges that were impeding the growth of the industry. The main one were financial issues, because there was a lack of money to finance tourist infrastructure because of low working capital. Some other issues were branding issues, safety, and security concerns. Hospitality industry in Kenya. Kenya is also expected to see a growth in the hospitality industry. However, when polled by industry professionals, university students were actually weighted worse overall in terms of preparedness for the industry compared to trade school students. And this was due to a lack of a strict curriculum a strict curriculum. There were less focuses on teamwork, and there were less chances for the university students to test their practical skills. And this was found in a study done by Kirillov et al. In 2020. This one's about hospitality degrees around the world. Hospitality program, as hospitality booms, so do colleges that specialize in hospitality. And so a poll was done to see what different hospitality schools focused on. And UNLV even participated in this in 2018. And Lung et al. Found that US schools focused on more general hospitality things like restaurant management and hotels, whereas UK hospitality programs focused on business because the hospitality degree itself in the UK was an offshoot of business. Whereas, and lastly, Australia centered on tourism because tourism is one of the biggest industries in Australia. Robots in hospitality. Robots are being tested for use throughout the hospitality industry. And a great example of this is the Henna Hotel in Japan, which at one point was staffed entirely by robots. Some of the pros of this were there were decreased training costs, and they were great at some of the undesirable tasks like mopping, doing plumbing, things like that. However, some of the pros were they were worse at service recovery, and there was less of a customer relationship, which does not help in the overall service experience. Eventually, they even had to hire human staff, according to Melau et al. In 2020. Cloud computing and hospitality. Hospitality organizations have been switching to cloud computing, which is just storing a lot of data off-site. However, the biggest problems were a lack of infrastructure in many countries, especially some of the developing countries like I was mentioning before. They just don't have the infrastructure or the money in place to put in the infrastructure. There's also a lot of mistrust and a lot of disbelief that cloud computing really helps, according to Mansour et al. In 2020. Restaurants and chatbots. Restaurants have begun using chatbots to place orders, just like chatbots are being used in hotels, according to Lewin and Wen in 2020. They found that there is little difference between how humans interact with chatbots and how humans interact with computers. However, they found that human interaction leads to higher satisfaction than ordering the chatbot online. This includes both in phone interactions and in-person interactions. They also found that when ordering online, users tend to buy more food. Lastly, is virtual reality in the hospitality industry. There's been an increased use of VR in tourist destinations, and according to Jung et al. In 2018, there is a strong correlation between the use of alternate reality technology and alternate reality technology and virtual reality technology and enjoyment. However, the biggest challenge to both of these technologies is cultural hesitancy and cultural misinformation, because there are many cultures with a high avoidance and to this type of technology, and to combat that, they will need a strong societal or social influence. These are my references, and thank you very much.